Studying is a hard task, but it doesn't have to be. In this video, we will talk about the 10 effective tips on studying to get the most out of your education. Consistency is the key. Studies show that people who are consistent with their study habits perform better. They have a better understanding of the material and are able to recall the information more easily. It is important to study consistently. It doesn't matter how long you're studying. As long as you study consistently, it will help with your memory retention. To be able to consistently study, it is important to have a routine. In this way, your brain will automatically know when it is time to focus and when it is time to take a break. If you try to cram, you will fail. It is far more effective to do a little bit of studying every day than it is to do a lot in a single hectic study session. This is because your brain requires time to shuffle all information into your long-term memory. Get enough sleep. It is important that you sleep properly in order to be able to focus on your studies. Studies show that we need about 8 hours of sleep per night to be fully rested and focused on our study. Try going to bed and waking up at the same time every day, even on weekends. Make sure that you are getting enough sleep to be fully rested and ready for the next day. Sleep deprivation makes it difficult to focus and acquire new ideas and information. So try to get enough sleep, at least 8 hours. Break everything down. When studying, break down information into small sections and focus on it one at a time. This will help you retain information more easily. When you break down the material into smaller sections, you will easily understand and remember what you're studying. Breaking things down into small tasks can make studying feel less overwhelming. There's an episode in Friends in which Chandler challenges Ross to name all 50 states in the United States. Even for Americans, it turns out to be a difficult task. Undoubtedly, naming all 7 dwarfs from Snow White or all 7 wonders of the ancient world can be difficult. If you're studying something that necessitates a broad range of knowledge, you'll be expected to memorize far more than 50 states. Chemistry students may have to deal with 118 elements in the periodic table, while foreign language students may have to recall thousands of words. Breaking down long lists of information into groups will make it much easier to remember the information. Consider how you think of landline phone numbers. They have a 5-digit area code followed by 2 clusters of 3-digit for the rest. This is known as chunking, and it is necessary if you want to commit a large number of things to your memory in a short period of time. Consider systems and categories as well. You can use this to remind yourself to test yourself later. Avoid procrastination by setting a deadline. Setting a deadline can help you stay focused on your studies. It also helps you to be motivated every day as opposed to just studying irregularly throughout the week or month. Cyril Northcote Parkinson wrote an essay for The Economist in 1955. It is stated there that it is a commonplace observation that work expands to fill the time available for completion. While Parkinson was not the first to make this observation, this brief description led to it being named after him. If you have a lot of time to do something, Parkinson's law states that you will either fill it or waste it. Setting short-term deadlines for yourself will help you avoid procrastination and the stress that comes with cramming. When it comes to studying, you should have a plan in place. Set your study goals and when you expect to achieve them within the schedule. If it turns out that you're not making as much progress as you'd expected, you'll be motivated to buckle down. If you're ahead of schedule, you can double down, feeling confident in your abilities as an overachiever. Setting a deadline will help with motivation as well as keeping track of how much time has been spent on a given topic. It is important to set a deadline for your study session so that you know when you should stop studying in order to give your brain some rest before continuing the next day. Your environment will affect your studying. Make sure you're studying in an environment that's not too noisy or distracting so that you can focus on what you're doing without any interruptions. According to research, learning environments play a critical role in student success. Comfort, light, noise, and even color can all have an impact on learning ability. Students who study in a positive learning environment are more motivated and engaged, and have greater overall learning ability. Students learning in poor environments, on the other hand, such as those that are uncomfortable, loud, or full of distractions, will find it much more difficult to absorb information and stay engaged. With this in mind, let's take a look at how your surroundings influence how you study, as well as some of the best ways to create your ideal learning environment. It is important to be in an environment where there is no distraction and where you can focus on what needs to be done. Read actively. Reading actively is much more intentional than simply just reading. It is reading with purpose. This method requires making meaning of the reading and following specific steps while in the reading process. When you read actively, you are engaging your brain in the process of understanding what you are reading by asking yourself questions about the text and elaborating on what it means in your own words. This technique can help improve comprehension skills by making it more difficult to skim over words without understanding them fully. Have you ever finished a chapter or article and thought to yourself, "I have no idea what I just read"? This is a common occurrence as well as a huge waste of time. But with active reading, you will save up time. It will also improve your memory, your understanding of the material, and your overall learning by assisting you in making connections as you read. Active reading helps you to maintain focus and engagement, improves comprehension and retention, and creates a visual record of the reading experience and relevant information in a text. Taking notes while reading. Taking notes while reading helps reinforce important information that may otherwise be forgotten later on because it forces the reader to focus on important points in the text by summarizing them in their own words as they go along. Taking good notes while reading is an important part of academic success. Lessons will require extensive reading, and without strong note-taking and reading skills, it can be difficult to understand and master the material and perform well in class. Good notes can take various forms and differ from person to person, or even text to text. One of the fundamental concepts of good note-taking is that it is not necessary to copy down a large amount of information from the text. Copying information does not engage your brain and is not an effective strategy for learning and remembering information. It also takes a significant amount of time and energy. In contrast, simply highlighting a large amount of information is easier but does little to actively engage the brain. This will help you save time and energy on notes, while improving your comprehension and retention from reading. Learn by teaching. You only properly understand something when you can explain it to another person. It's cliché, but it's true. The best way to expose gaps in your knowledge is to try to convey that knowledge to someone else. Find a willing volunteer, maybe your friend or a family member, and ask them questions about the subject. As if you were a teacher, try explaining the material in your own words. Saying the material aloud will help you retain the information by highlighting areas where you are focused and need more information. Use examples and make connections between concepts while explaining the material, just as a teacher does. It is acceptable, even encouraged, to do so while holding your notes. You may need to use your notes to explain the material at first, but you will eventually be able to teach it without them. You may have taken your understanding for granted in many years. If you're studying programming or linguistics, you may believe you understand what the term syntax means. But are you sure? It is often only when you come to explain something that you realize the scope of your knowledge. An outsider's scrutiny, like an angled torchlight exposing a sloppy decorator, can help you see where you should focus your studies in the future. Ask questions during the lecture. Asking questions in class is one of the most important things you can do. You should always ask your professor about anything you don't understand or have missed. When you ask a question on your initiative, you are more likely to remember the answer. You may have experienced this. We have asked questions when we think the subject is interesting or relevant to us. This piques our interest in learning the answer. As a result, we naturally remember it for a long time. Asking questions will also help you clear out your doubt. When the lecturer is teaching, you may miss a section or fail to understand something. In such cases, raise your questions and get them answers right away. If you do not ask a question, you may not understand the topic because you lack clarity on it. Do not be afraid or shy about asking questions. If you leave a question unanswered in your mind, it may affect your exam performance as well as your overall knowledge. It will continue to be a barrier in the learning process. The goal of learning should not just to pass exams, but to serve a much larger purpose. Learning is an ongoing process that never ends. If a concept is not understood during the first phase, it will be much more difficult to understand it later, as it becomes more complex. Study with friends. Studying with friends is an excellent way to maintain motivation and energy. If you have classmates who you enjoy studying with, make it a point to do so. Study groups have been shown to improve motivation through shared accountability, because students assist each other in developing routines, and simply because everything is more enjoyable when done together. Simply having a peer support partner or study buddy is associated with greater participation, greater commitment, and less time spent procrastinating. Studying with a friend will also help you learn more and perform better academically. According to a 2014 South Australian study, university students who studied with a buddy scored 23% higher than those who studied alone. The data tells the same story whether you're 10 or 20 years old. According to a 2019 study published in the journal Educational Psychologist, students who had no friends had lower grades and were less academically engaged than those who had even one friend. In another study, adolescents who worked together, engaged in more explanatory behavior, learned faster, and completed tasks more efficiently than those who worked alone. Studying is the process of acquiring knowledge. It is a lifelong activity that never stops. You can study for a test, for work, or to just learn something new. It is important to learn how to study first, which will provide benefits to your education. Study hard and at the same time study smart. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.